Three, two, one. The Final Fantasy Wiki podcast is brought to you by the $200 that you can save by not buying a PlayStation 5 Pro. What are you going to spend your $200 on? I'm going to see the Broncos tomorrow. You could spend it on anything you want. Your life is infinite in all the possibilities you can have by not wasting your money on a product that will basically have no games on it. There you go.
Sweet.
Yeah. Was that a little harsh?
No, that's, if anything, not harsh enough. Like, god fucking damn it, what is with that pricing?
It's $700.
Well,
Seven?
US.
I say no games, but the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is announced as one of the games that's enhanced for it, quote unquote. Right?
But
does that mean it's worth $200 extra? I don't think so.
All right. I'll for the sake of argument.
You know what? I think Sony expected one of their headliners at the PS5 Pro announcement to be Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then the day after that, State of Play got delayed 3 months.
Okay. For the sake of argument, I will say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a great-looking video game. It is a little hard to read the combat sometimes. There's a lot going on, and the enemies are very detailed, and the graphics are realistic. So maybe with 60 FPS and high frame rate, I'd have a better idea of knowing when I'm supposed to block or dodge roll or something like that. But $200 for that privilege, on top of the $500 you're spending for a base PlayStation 5.
Well, so
it's money for a disc drive, because like we have discs.
That's what I was about to say.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was about to say. It's not just $200 extra. If you want the disc drive, right? I personally don't. I don't need discs anymore. But if you do want the disc drive, it's $300 extra, or like close to that, because it's $200 plus. I think it's like $80-$90 or something for a disc drive, which is it's a little bit absurd. So but SomeComputerScienceMage, you were saying the other day that the original PS4 Pro, which was the precursor to this, that was only like 15% of PS4 sales in total.
Yeah, sure.
And this might be even less than that.
Yeah, and like it's a peak. It's like a true a dedicated crazy person machine, because that's why I had a PS4 Pro. But like you're just unnecessarily pissing those kinds of people off when you say this is our best version. It doesn't actually contain everything. So I probably wouldn't pay the Australian price is $1,200 for it anyway. But adding on the disc drive and the vertical stand, absolutely fuck you for selling that separately. Knocks that up to $1,410. Fuck you! I'm not paying that.
So anyway, this is the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast. This is our basically our version of a cold opening. I'm your host, BlueHighwind, and joining me was SomeComputerScienceMage and Techno Obliterator. We're all back together for the first time in months.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, team.
Yeah.
Well, I'm back.
And you're in Vancouver right now, reporting on the scene.
Oh, yeah. What's happening in Vancouver?
You're going to go on a cruise, right?
Yeah, I am. But stuff happens in Vancouver. It's a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend visiting. And that's about it. In a few days, I'll be in Seattle.
You're taking a cruise to Seattle?
It goes from Vancouver all the way down to LA is where it stops.
Oh, wow.
But
that's West Coast cruise.
Along the way, we're stopping. Yeah. Along the way, we're stopping at Seattle. We're stopping at San Francisco. Stopping at Santa Barbara. Like I think we stop at Oregon at some point. But all the places basically.
Okay. I left from Vancouver to go to Alaska back in August.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so I went north and you're going to go south from the same city. And
yeah, I will say, like, as much as this, it is beautiful up here, I will say this place is way too cold for me. I couldn't go north and go even colder than this. I can't deal with the cold,
Well, it was
despite
summer.
being from a cold country. Yeah.
Yeah, it was warmer.
Despite being from a cold country, I can't deal with it. There's a reason I left.
Well, England is warmer, even though it's further north than British Columbia is, typically.
Really?
Yeah, the North Atlantic Current makes Europe warm.
I guess that doesn't surprise me. I guess I can see that, but even still, I'm freezing it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, while you're there, you should go to a place called Richmond by the airport and get Chinese food. It's the best Chinese food I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
Shanghai
and that's not
River.
Richmond. Not Richmond, London. It's the different Richmond.
It's not Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. No, it is not any other Richmond that I'm unaware of.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
I did not know
Richmond, British Columbia.
Okay.
Which is no longer British. It is now Canadian Columbia, I guess.
Yep.
So that's your geography talk for the episode. This podcast, did I say, is about the Final Fantasy wiki and Final Fantasy related materials, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's September, if you can't tell by that PlayStation 5 price conversation. To further date us, Concord. Haha, the game crashed and died. Now you know this is a September 2024 discussion.
Look, I think it was very nice of Sony to give everyone who bought that $40 credit off one of the candidates for Game of the Year, Astrobot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant game, right?
Yeah.
It's genuinely tight between Seven Rebirth and Astrobot for Game of the Year at the minute. Like
a while back, we talked about how Shadow of the Erd Tree was reviewing better than Rebirth. This is the first actual full game this year that's reviewed better than Rebirth, and yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's if you're any fan of like the classic Mario games, like Mario Galaxy.
Oh God, you're hurting me by calling Mario Galaxy a classic Mario game. That's a new Mario game as far as I'm concerned. But no, it is
classic like Mario 64.
Okay, Is
that better? Okay.
I know I'm dating myself by saying, okay, that game I consider new, even though it's more than 15 years old at this point.
Okay, so like one of those really highly acclaimed ones like that. And,
Super Mario
if you're just a
3D
fan of
World is a fantastic game. You should definitely
3D
play if you
World.
like this. Yeah.
3D World, Odyssey, if you're a fan of those. If you're a fan of just platformers in general, so for me, I grew up with Ratchet and Clank with Jak and Daxter, and this has a lot of similarities to that. Like, if you're a fan of like any of those types of games, then this is one of the first games in a while that's come out where I'd said buy it at full price. Like, obviously unless you're budget strapped, but this is one of those games that are worth buying at full price because it's genuinely just so innovative. It's so well made. It's just a masterpiece. Like, okay. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's absolutely phenomenal.
All right, it's a good thing we brought up Astrobot because I think this is also a phenomenal game. It's going to make my top 10, no doubt.
Yeah.
It is a celebration of all things Sony and Sony history, including most companies that they partnered with. There's a whole Loco Roco level, which made me think, goddamn, they should make more Loco Roco games because I love. Right? I was just so happy seeing all the little blob guys again. To make this relevant to this podcast again, there is a glaring, enormous omission from this game in Sony history, which is that there's no Square Enix representation in this game at all.
Yeah, that's like they put the Buster Sword in Playroom, so what's going on here? Like, did they ask a stupid amount of money for this? Like,
I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, like, you look at how many Metal Gear Solid references are in this game. Like, there's a lot of Metal Gear Solid in Astro Bot.
Yeah.
Right, and that's about the same era as Final Fantasy VII, right?
Well, Konami is open for business and wants to sell Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, I guess is what that thing's called.
I'm extremely looking forward to that.
But that's a game that they're selling fully on hype and nostalgia. So, you know, a hype and nostalgia thing, they're 100%. All right, we're going for this. We want to sell to that crowd. It's weird that Sony and Square Enix suddenly weren't able to talk on this level at all. Like, they couldn't even get, like, I don't know, they couldn't get Sora. I understand why maybe not. They couldn't get Cloud. They couldn't get the friggin' Ashley Riot from Vagrant Story or something, you know? Give me John Airgaze or whatever his name is.
And, like, the only thing I can think of is that they must be doing some kind of, like, DLC where it's a full Square Enix or full Final Fantasy level, because otherwise that's too glaring of an omission.
The DLC properties were already in the credits. The Stellar Blade stuff and such that they showed at State Play, that was already in the credits of the base game.
Unfortunately, that we may have to throw water on that. Which is sad because...
I mean, there's a FIFA character in this game, for Christ's sake. Like, who doesn't have a character in Astro Bot at this point?
Well, what I was trying to say is, it's sad because Astro Bot is this amazing collection of, like, PlayStation 1 RPG characters. So, you have the guy from... or what I think is supposed to be the guy from Suikoden 2, main character whose name I'm blanking on.
Suikoden 1.
Suikoden
it's
1,
Term McDowell from 1.
They both have, like, the sweatband, though. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Then there's a Legend of Dragoon character. There's one other game I remember seeing and being like, there's no way they were able to get that character, but now I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was like Lunar or something. I don't know. Lunar, by the way, was at State of Play. They're bringing that franchise back. So congratulations to all Lunar fans out there. I'm sure there's enough of them to fill maybe a room. I don't know why I'm shitting on the Lunar franchise. I didn't mean to, but it just sort of happens.
I mean, I can understand people being weird about Lunar in English because those were working designs translations, and working designs was fucking horrid, man. Oh, sorry, it's just nobody said anything, so I thought I got disconnected.
No, you said and then I'm waiting for the
Yeah, never mind.
Okay.
See, I know you did it on purpose that time.
I did, yes. Now I'm just messing with you. Okay. Where were we? So we're talking about Astrobot and things. So, I think we might have run out of Astrobot talk. I mean, it's just a disappointing thing. Because I would say that of the big Sony franchises, the ones that aren't owned in-house, probably top 3 is Final Fantasy. It'd be Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, and the stuff they actually own. That's the main things that come to mind with Sony. And
well, Crash Bandicoot.
No,
you can't not include Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. That would be 4.
Crash Bandicoot is vastly below popularity in Metal Gear at this point.
It is funny how much Microsoft is sucking up to Sony now these days, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Crash is owned by Microsoft, and Spyro is too, right now? Because they're both they both should be Activision properties.
No, I do think you're right. These days, that's definitely the case. But back when it came out, when it came out, and the other one was
Resident Evil.
By the way, that too. But I was gonna say Lara Croft. Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
But
they did get
that's
Tomb
not
Raider.
Square Enix anymore.
Yeah, that's and even their actual owners don't give a shit. I feel like Amazon's been pushing Tomb Raider more than Embracer Group. But of course, that's Embracer Group. They shit their bed on everything.
Embracer Group needs to friggin' find money under...
did, which is fucking impressive.
Yeah, now Embracer Group needs to find money under the pillows to keep the lights on at this point. They're finding pennies in their pockets to try to go and buy $1 meal for breakfast at McDonald's. That's the state of that company. So we should talk about other news things, I think. Right?
Well, if anything changes that, it'll be the Fed cutting interest rates will mean the venture capital will be doing great again. So we'll see what happens with Embracer Group.
I am not prepared for a venture capital conversation.
I'm not going to talk about venture capital, but the thing is, Embracer's already basically announced its plans to break up. I don't know how far along they are in that. But at the same time, they were so far in the shit that basically the only way they could get out of it is begging Saudi Arabia for money, and they said no. Like, I don't think there is enough venture capital to bail them out of their shit.
So Saudi Arabia, like we would bail you out, but that money barely covers Ronaldo's wages for this year. So sorry.
Yeah. So other news reports. This is something I covered last month. This is regarding the actress of Wu Mat from Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, which has been a really terrible story. I was disappointed that Yoshida did not talk about anything regarding that actress's abuse. And actually, he did speak out. So he was telling JP Games, quote, "I do understand that when we look at all the feedback we get, it's really difficult to discern what is specifically the feedback about the story and..." Wait, this is not the right quote. Oh, here it is. Sorry.
Yeah,
Wrong paragraph. That's crap. I would really like to ask that people do not direct personal attacks to the voice actors involved in the development and also individual members of the localization team, because they're really doing their best to create something which is great for the creative process. Alright, so... Yes. Do not direct personal attacks against them, blah, 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 and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, please stop being fucking shitty about that stuff. It's, like, real bad. I said this to this level already. Like, I kind of, like, last month, like, had, like, almost an existential crisis about the state of video games, just thinking about it, just how shitty the whole thing was. Like, it was just real bad. And...
it ain't been a great year for games.
No, it really hasn't been in a lot of ways.
But I will say, Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are like don't have a lot of competition for Game of the Year between those two, and they have been a shining light throughout this otherwise not amazing year in the industry.
Also, I've never said the actress's name. My bad there. So Sina Breyer is her name.
Sina Breyer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that what the best game of the year is kind of a separate conversation from just the overall just nasty shittiness of the video game public right now. It kind of at an all-time low.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, for example, the other day they announced a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, right? Mm-hmm. And Ghost of
Tsushima is because I already know what you're talking about, so just
it's like it looks brilliant, but you could predict a certain crowd's reaction. Like you just like you don't even need to go out and look for it. It's they're just a parody of themselves at this point.
You know what?
Like just general public service announcement. Delete your Twitter account.
Yeah, at this point, like genuinely, there's no reason to still be on that website other than if you possibly have a podcast and are looking for a news feed. Still, you can find stories sometimes by checking your Twitter, but like it's a shit show there. And
and look, if you do have an account there, you can follow us. I mean, I don't know what all we'll be posting on it, but we're on it.
We'll be posting this episode, I guess, where if you are, say, a person that for some reason gets angry every time a video game stars a woman, I don't think there'll be much for you on this show, but, you know. Yeah. Maybe you like the sound of my voice, considering you hate women.
While I do not moderate the Final Fantasy Wiki Twitter anymore, I could tell you that if you behaved like that in our mentions, you'd be blocked on site.
Come to the Discord, I'll block you instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll still uphold that, although no one's done it so far. But I'll uphold that policy. But yeah, look,
our
I'm really excited.
communications on Twitter got surprisingly sedate after a while. Like, there were times where Hex
Yeah.
and were posting blatant bait and expecting people to get mad at us, and it never happened.
Yeah, we're luckily a very tiny portion of the internet with at this point, what I would call a very quiet base. Because, like, one day, if people were to go and hunt us down and kill us all, I think they'd be able to do it, but fuck you, still. You want to go and start a crazy mob and burn my house down, you're allowed to. I don't actually own this house. So...
Yeah, look, I'm really excited for Ghost of Yotei. Like, I thought Ghost of Tsushima, the first one, I thought that was a brilliant game. And I'm sure that Ghost of Yotei will be great too. Just like there's a certain crowd of people who like they don't care about anything in games other than like their own, oh, we hate women in games kind of deal, and they're just a parody of themselves at this point. Just ignore it. They haven't said anything new or interesting since like 2015.
I think they never had anything interesting to say to begin with.
I don't think they had anything interesting to say to begin with. No.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, saying it's in 2015 is actually an absolutely fair consideration because this dumb fuck movement started in 2016.
14.
Yeah, is that right?
It was it had always existed, but it's sort of we don't need to do the entirety of Gamergate history here, but
no, it's not. It's not worth talking about.
But genuinely, to do everybody a favor in their lives, block these people. And if your website possibly is saying that you're no longer allowed to block people, just get off that website. I'm not naming names as to what website is talking about doing those things, but its name starts with X and rhymes with Twitter somehow.
Yeah, there might even be a rival website that has been actively promoting the fact that its blocking is extremely strong and yeets people from existence, basically.
Yeah.
It got a ton of British people mad at them, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And if YouTube, and if anyone on those videos shows up on your YouTube video, there's a button you can click to say, don't recommend me these again. And then they'll leave you alone.
Yeah, I haven't gotten
people say that doesn't work, but it actually only overrides that decision if you ever go to their videos again.
Mm-hmm.
So stop doing that.
I actually haven't gotten much reactionary shit on YouTube in a while. I
haven't, thankfully. Their algorithm is a lot better than it used to be.
Now it's like, you want to watch nothing but Hoi 4 videos. And increasingly bizarre mods of Hoi 4, don't you? And I'm like, you know what? I kind of do. What if Italy won World War II? Let's make an entire history and have like 50 TV tropes pages about every single country. This is things that people do.
Oh, I actually know that mod. Oh my god.
Exactly. What weirdness.
But like, it's actually kind of surprising that YouTube isn't delivering you absolutely wretched shit with that line of thinking, because
you'd be amazed. Honest, maybe you know what? It's like, maybe I'm filtering all the reactionary shit by it showing me like mods of Germany winning World War II. It's like, okay, this is how it thinks it's showing the fascism it wants to show me. Okay, so anyway.
On that note,
yeah, it doesn't end well for Germany in these mods, by the way. Like, the New Order is basically...
Oh, good.
The New Order is a horror game that people have made using the Hoi 4 engine. It is fascinating. But that's not Final Fantasy.
We're getting way off topic.
You know what? As the years go by, and there might be less and less Final Fantasy news, we're just going to have to get weirder and talk about more random things to fill up time. So
okay, let's just put this on the list somewhere in our 2026 episodes, an analysis of World War II through the lens of Hearts of Iron 4. Okay,
well, you know what? We'll have to make our own Hearts of Iron 4 mod. That's all Final Fantasy team. I don't know. I didn't even play that game. I just watched videos of it. So, all right, let's talk about some other news. So this came up during an interview of Naoki Hamaguchi, who I think, what was he, the director of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
yeah,
All right, so
yeah,
He deserves to get his own Final Fantasy to direct.
he does. So
like,
this is the one
he
bit.
does really feel like he's the person that the old group of leaders are training up. Like there's Yoshida, but he's kind of on a different track. Like he came from other games. He worked on Dragon Quest X before he started doing Final Fantasy stuff. Whereas Hamaguchi is directly working with the people who were the heads of the series in the early 3D era.
Yeah, maybe one day he'll be able to make Final Fantasy 18 or something when he's done with Rebirth. But the quote that's been going around regarding this interview, which was okay, but the one thing I just thought was funny is quote, we were sorry, God, I'm reading this all wrong. After the panel yesterday, we were chatting with the voice actors over dinner, and this exact topic came up, funnily enough. We were talking about Chadley, which is that character who supports Cloud in Rebirth. And we were talking about how, like, some people think he's actually evil and will turn out to be the final boss in the final title. We were cracking up about that. So, unfortunately, if your fan fiction theory involves safer Chadley, that's just not going to happen, it seems. Though maybe he's setting us up to swerve us, and Chadley actually will be the final boss.
Look, I think its Chadley fight is possible, but not for evil reasons. Like he's going to, like he's very much an I want combat data guy, and what's the best way to get there other than, like, fight me yourself, cowards.
You know what?
Yeah, I can see that. That would be, but that's such an overdone trope at this point.
You know what? Is it possible that the final boss of Rebirth, Remake, whatever, like the third Final Fantasy VII game, is that just going to be base Sephiroth again? Because he was already the final boss of the first two games.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that.
It's possible. I mean, he technically was the final fight of the original 7, but that was also scripted. Like, it didn't matter what you did. Sephiroth died in one hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that as far as actual proper gameplay goes, 7 whatever. I mean, I think I keep calling it recall, rebuild, revengeance, whatever. Safer is just the end of it, and whatever happens, that is basically just glorified cutscene.
7, you cannot redo. Maybe that's what it's going to be, with parentheses. Or maybe
they could throw in a giant fucking whisper for you to fight again. Who knows?
Though, there definitely will be something going on with Chadley, because there was a whole cutscene, and this is, I guess, spoilers at this point, where Hojo was in his lab and realized that Chadley was running around doing whatever he does, and he's like, go and inject Formula 666 into the Chadley mold, and then something happened, but we don't know what.
Maybe we'll get a good Chadley versus evil Chadley fight.
We could. Or like
Chadley a party member.
Yeah. Chadley turns evil, and then Femme Chadley, whatever her name is,
Mai,
yes. Mai becomes the full version, and this is the end of Chadley's transition. This is how it happens. You have to kill the male that remains in order for them to become who they truly are. I'm just spitballing ideas here. Jill was on the cover of Famitsu for Final Fantasy XVI on PC.
Mm-hmm.
You may remember Famitsu. It still exists.
Mm.
One day it will not, considering very few video game magazines are left. But Famitsu's still going, and Jill from Final Fantasy XVI, she's there. Yep. Final Fantasy XVI is on PC now. And,
yeah.
Well, we have to talk about this story. We just
got news.
Yes.
Yeah, Yoshi-P asked players to please not make or install offensive or inappropriate mods. So,
like, I know why he did this. It's because of 14. Like, there's a constant there is a constant war going on. People would like to tell you that oh, they don't care about mods. No, they fucking do care about mods. It's just that Yoshida is opposed to installing anti-cheats and stuff in the game because they make the game run worse. So they only go against mods when you draw their attention to it. You know, see the old billboard debacle.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
And the Omega Protocol, and basically any instance where Yoshida has had to put a statement on the lodestone that amounts to "Stop cheating in ultimate difficulty, idiots." He's going like this is like not a full shutdown on mods, but if he was like explicitly endorsing open season on it, people would take the wrong message and start doing stupid shit in 14 again.
Yeah, and I think
it clearly has not worked, considering the image we have in the Final Fantasy 16 channel of the Clive without facial hair mod, which is more horrifying than any mod that could show his dick could be.
He's got a lot of chin. He grew so much chin in his 30s somehow. There was also a nude Clive that came out like the very day, because there are nude scenes in this game. I can tell you that Clive has no penis at all. It's just a nub.
So do you know when your parent tells you, like when you're a child, when they tell you like don't go in that room?
Yeah.
Of course, what you're gonna want to do is go in that room.
Well, yeah.
Right. It's when someone tells you not to do something, that basically means you're gonna do it at some point.
If anything, he's
when
like,
he said, "Please don't make these mods." He's basically saying, "We know you're gonna make the mods."
Yeah, he's basically saying, "Please." If anything, he's making it worse. He's like, "This is how this is what you say if you want to have the freakiest stuff come out."
Yeah, I don't think what he said is an effective defense against everything, but like we know that Rule 34 is an inevitability.
Mm-hmm.
For example, this week, people observed that Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis when on the iOS charts went up from like 150th or so to 13th, and I am going to post one image in the podcast channel that explains exactly why that happened.
Okay. Oh, what is happening here? To explain, this is Tifa wearing some kind of a future S&M vampire, very Nomura designed costume.
It's called the Bahamas suit, apparently. Yeah. And people are freaking out about it. A lot of people are big fans of it. I don't follow that game anymore.
I know exactly where that's going to lead, because like a few weeks ago, the event associated with this started and had Cloud's Bahamut suit, and I have already seen porn of that.
Okay, well, let's see the Cloud Bahamut suit.
Yeah, okay, let me just grab the link for that as well.
Also, to explain the Tifa Bahamut suit, there is dark armor parts and there are purple see-through parts. So you can see her navel, but her boobs are completely covered in the purple stuff, but you cannot see anything through there. So it's interesting to imagine what texture is going on with that stuff. Cloud, oh wow, he's got a torn chest with purple stuff as well. It looks like it was ripped open, and this is extremely slutty, Cloud. There's no other word for it.
I have to remind myself to actually edit these into the YouTube version of the pod.
Okay. Oh yeah, make these our thumbnail image. Why not?
Sure.
I can't imagine that Cloud, knowing what I know about him as a character, would wear this, but he could probably be talked into this.
Oh yeah, if Aerith's around, she could totally convince him to wear that.
Yeah, Aerith designed this costume. Aerith designed both these costumes. That's my fan fiction there.
Clearly.
What the hell were we even talking about? Oh yeah, Final Fantasy 16 mods. So I haven't seen much, but from what I know about that game, having played it, is every single character in that game has a nude model. So you can just extract that and do whatever you want with it, I imagine. That's what they've done with Clive, the Ken doll version I saw.
Yeah, and like Yeah, I mean, the only dominance in the game that we didn't see naked, Joshua, Dion, and the Leviathan baby. So
Yeah, do not do anything with the Leviathan baby, please.
yes, they should not do anything with the Leviathan baby.
Leave the Leviathan baby alone. Jesus Christ.
Like, you already have to fight the baby. I think that's enough.
Yeah, please. You may only kill the baby. You may not do anything else to the baby.
Oh, the baby survives.
Oh, okay. I'd watched these cutscenes and forgot already. So Final Fantasy 16 came out on PC a few days ago. And, you know, I remember hearing that it isn't running particularly well, which is to be expected with a Square Enix PC release at this point. Also to be expected with a PC release at all, because I think this is all people that buy PC games do, is jack up the, like, every single slider to max and then get mad when the game can't run.
Yeah. Although it can be a bit baffling considering, you know, it's same engine as 14, and that obviously runs really damn well.
Yeah, but this is a very different application of that engine, and
yeah,
and by saying it's the 14 engine, that also means it's technically the Crystal Tools white engine running this thing, which also means I'm not surprised at all that there's problems. That tech base has been a disaster from the beginning.
I mean, yeah, that tech base, like, even when it runs well, it is a disaster. Yes, we can talk about the various coding issues with 14 a lot, but, like, at least it runs at 60 most of the time.
You know, I'm hearing contradictory things. There's one comment on our Final Fantasy saying it's amazingly optimized. There's YouTube videos telling me about this one cool fix to fix a performance. Square Enix doesn't want you to know about this one fix to make the game run better. Iconera is saying the game's not selling particularly well, but I'm not even sure what Iconera is.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them either. Was that like a reset era, like, split? Did that split as well? I haven't been up to my reset era drama, because the whole reason that thing exists is because it's split from another forum. Yeah. God, video games are fucking cursed. This whole thing's doomed.
And the thing is, even if 16 on PC was running like us, for a few days that was the best performing version, because this month Sony pushed out an update to the PlayStation 5 that broke 16 and a few other games. But yeah, for a while the PS5 version of 16 was just not working. It's like crashing on scene transitions and such.
So that's basically that same game that's come out. You know what? I decided to change my opinion on 16. I think that game's fine. I remember just last month I was saying I think that game's not good. You know what? Fuck it. It's fine. Go play it. Whatever.
Like, my stance just still hasn't changed. It's an entirely competent game, but I can look at things and say, you could have gone harder on this. Like, there's plenty of moments where it feels like they were not working to the full potential that they're capable of.
You should...
Yeah, I'll play it at some point.
If you make a female character, you should write things for her to do. Is my opinion on that.
At least she got a revenge arc, which was, like, pretty sweet, even if she didn't even do all of it.
She didn't even get to kill the guy. Clive did it. Yeah. So, this news. I've been avoiding this because Twitter's been on fire about this the last week. But I think they're already done, because that's just what Twitter does. It's like they get angry about things, and they find something else to be angry about. So this is Square Enix reiterating, again, that we've known for a long time now. Quote, in the HD games subsegment, we released multiple new titles, including major titles such as Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, but profits ultimately did not meet our expectations. So...
Yeah, like, this is the thing, and it's kind of why I've been annoyed whenever it's brought up. Like, when I first saw this news, it was actually Nova Crystallis's report on Blue Sky, and it opened up with a translation of the May shareholders meeting has been released. Yeah, so we already knew this because people had already translated that 4 months ago.
This was the May stuff? I thought this was new stuff.
see, there was this whole there was a whole blow up over this where there's been some hot takes about, whoa, this is because of the Final Fantasy brand has been damaged over the years, and normally the responses to that are kind of interesting, I think it is a fair point to say that to an extent it does need to rebuild itself by regaining trust, and it can do that by continuing to make really good games. I think that's a totally fair and logical conclusion to come to, but I also think that I do think some of the hyperbole that's come out of it has been a little bit ridiculous, right? And there's a lot of clickbait that's come from it. But knowing that this isn't even a new report makes it that much more ridiculous, the response.
It feels like it's the same conversation we've had a dozen times now about all right, why is Final Fantasy not doing what it needs to be doing? Why isn't it selling? Why is it aging? This, that, and the other thing. It's we've had this conversation. This has been done.
Yeah, and the thing is, the business people, even if sometimes they make stupid decisions, often make stupid decisions, there is a really good chance that they're going to be more knowledgeable than the randos on Twitter. And right there, they're basically just outright saying, yeah, we give up on exclusivity agreements. Sony's not paying enough. They're not worth it.
Yeah, and I am not what interests me about video games is ultimately not sales. I know that Dead Game is an exciting brand for people, that this is what some streamers build their entire careers around, is basically cheerleading the deaths of properties and failures and stuff. And I this is not what's interesting to me. Ultimately, what's interesting is what you're doing, the craft, what you're trying to say, how this builds upon previous themes that you've built there. And it's maybe one day there won't be Final Fantasy games anymore. And that would be sad and depressing, and if the money doesn't work out, the money doesn't work out, but it ain't my fucking money. So I don't give a shit about that stuff. I did not get a business degree for a reason. I got a history degree.
Yeah, and say a game actually is bad, it's usually more interesting to look into why it's bad than just pointing at a sales number.
Exactly.
Anyone who was just oh look, Concord sold 0 copies. Yeah, that's great. I'm actually interested into why the art style is so incorrect and why the gameplay mechanics are so insanely designed.
Did we ever find out what was going on with Concord's characters? Because I remember hearing that the original designs for them actually looked fairly good.
The concept art is very much in the style of the artist Mobius, and that stuff looks good, but it's also very clearly a more comic book art style. You don't translate that into realism. You cel shade that shit basically.
Yeah,
and they didn't do that.
Yeah, so the characters look, this is an old joke at this point, but they look like porn parody versions of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I specifically said the art style looks incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of an objective judgment for art usually, but if you take an art style that's clearly designed for a specific method of drawing it, and then you draw it in a completely different style, it's not going to look right. You can sometimes do something with that, but in this case, it clearly does not work.
Yeah. So this was about sales and stuff. So yeah. Let's move on to the next thing. Fantasian Neo Dimension. It's going to have this is coming out soon, actually. I think it was just announced to come out on PlayStation as well as Switch.
I think it's on everything.
Yeah, it's Sakaguchi's basically swan song. So this is going to have a Final Fantasy sound collaboration. So you can select background music from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XVI, and certain Pixel remaster games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure which Pixel remaster games. It just says Pixel remaster. So maybe it's only Final Fantasy 1? Or hopefully all of them.
No, it's all of them.
Oh, it's all of them. Okay.
It's They're all on Xbox now.
Yes. And yes, that is another news thing that Techno just elaborated on, is that the Pixel Remaster games are coming out on Xbox Series.
Yeah, they're all already out, along with the Trials of Mana remake and Legends of Mana, I think was the other one.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, which is good. Ironically, I think it means that... Wait, no, that's not true because of the recent ones. But I was about to say, like, Xbox almost can play more Final Fantasy games than PlayStation now, because Xbox can actually play 13. And the PlayStation cannot anymore. We can't play the 13 series.
Oh, yeah, because PlayStation 3 games still aren't backwards compatible.
Nope.
I mean, I guess technically you can if you have PlayStation now, but for starters, that requires you to live in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that accounts for most of humanity.
Yes, but I am not in that most
Not
of humanity.
All of humanity.
Sorry.
Only most.
Yep.
But no. So I'm happy for Xbox owners. I know that like Xbox isn't a huge percentage of the audience for Final Fantasy. Or of the sales base, but you know, I'm still happy for them anyway, because these 6 games are all classics and they're all great. And I will say that, like, the Pixel Remaster is a good way to play them. I don't know if it's the best way, but it's a very good way.
I mean, yeah, like, it's great that it's there, and you know, Square is obviously really trying to be multi-plat now, but I can't shake the feeling that the Series X is the last Xbox.
I don't think... No, I think they got one more Xbox in them. I think they got one more throw of that dice.
We'll see, but I really hope it doesn't come down to, like, literally just 2 consoles, just, like, for the competition of it all. Like, you know, like, we're only gonna get a better PlayStation if it's competing with an Xbox. Like that.
Well, if Nintendo announces that the Switch 2 is less than like $350 or so, it might be one console.
It's not gonna be that cheap. It's gonna be like $400, $500. They can do that now. The competition is shot up. Like at this point, the PlayStation 6 is gonna be like $1,000. So they could sell for half that and look like the good guys. And I don't know.
They're not gonna put it that much. They're not gonna do that.
I hope
that would
not.
just so stupid. I mean, then again, PS5 Pro is already fairly stupid. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think they're gonna be that dumb.
You know what? I don't need a PlayStation 6. They don't need to ever make a PlayStation 6. They're good with what they got. Just make PlayStation 5 for the rest of history.
Yeah, I do think that we do really need console generations to last longer, just because games take so much longer to make now, right? It's like, if the dev cycle for games is lengthening, the console cycle should also lengthen. That's my opinion, because otherwise we'll be looking back on it. Like, I think you looked back on the PS2 era, like, and that was the era I was growing up in. Like, literally, pretty much all my favorite games are on that console, save a few, right? But, like, so many games came out on PS2. Like, we had the whole Sly trilogy, the whole Jack trilogy, the whole Ratchet trilogy. We had Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12. We had Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, right? We had, like, 2 Gran Turismos, and those were the best 2 Gran Turismos, right? We had GTA 3, San Andreas, and the other one, Vice City, right? We had, like, God of War 1 and 2. Like, so many games came out on PS2. Then PS3, it's like, oh, okay, it's a little bit less than that. You know, we had the Uncharted games. Those were brilliant. We had, what else did we have? Yeah, see, I'm even going blank trying to think of, like, PS3 games that we had that were, like, at that level. Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah, PlayStation 3 is a lesser console than 2. I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely of that opinion. But PlayStation 3 had, you know, it had big hitter games, but not Last of Us, of course. I don't know how I forgot that. For some reason, I think of Last of Us as a PS4 game. But
It did
yeah,
come
it
out.
had that.
Remade it for
God of
PS4
War
and then
3.
remade it again for PS5.
Right. Yeah. And then PS4 era, I think, like, you know, in terms of the quality of games, we had things like Spider-Man. I mean, obviously, I'll say Final Fantasy VII Remake. We had
Nier Automata.
God of War, Nier Automata. We had, like, really big games on PS4. But if you just look at the sheer volume, it's like maybe half of what the PS2 had. And PS5, you know, there's been some brilliant games on PS5. Don't get me wrong. There's been some incredible games on it, 2 of which came out this year, right? But games are taking longer to make, so a console generation is going to end up with fewer games. And I get the counter argument of, well, you know, technology moves so fast that we can make all these advancements, and if we keep it on this technology, then, you know, it's going to hold the games back from getting better. I get that, but, like, it's just from the standpoint of the games we're getting fewer games, right? So we just need to make the console generations mean more, and they're going to mean less if every console generation doesn't lengthen, then each generation will get progressively weaker. Like, that's just my opinion of it.
So I don't quite agree that there's been leaps and bounds in technology, actually. If you want the prime evidence of that, look at the PS5 Pro. Its main big graphical performance advantage is PSSR. And what PSSR does is that it's providing a finally workable answer to a problem that was entirely self-inflicted by the industry. Temporal AA is a terrible technology. It's never worked. But everyone who were chasing fidelity added it and made all of their games blurry.
Well, I remember thinking. Oh, sorry. You can. I thought you were finished the point. Sorry, mate.
And the other thing is that I don't think the answer to increasing dev cycle length is to make the consoles match. They've got reigning game development times and costs. Like that's not like increasing the lifetime of the console generations doesn't actually help them rein it into amount of spending that's actually sustainable.
Really what we need is for everyone to become the Like a Dragon studio and release one game, make Honolulu in that game, and then the very next year reuse Honolulu entirely, and then make it a game about pirates and Majima as a pirate.
Yeah, like just watching gameplay of Like a Dragon 8 Gaiden pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yep.
And like the stance shifting, just like Majima fucking magics his pirate outfit on and off like a magical girl when he changes style. That fucking rules. And it took him a really short time to develop.
You know what? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth should do the same thing. It should release an entire pirate universe based in the world they've already built, except they already fucking did that. That's in the game they sold. Shit.
So first of all, like I totally agree that they do need to like figure out how to shorten developer cycles, and I hope that is what ends up happening, regardless of what they do with length of console times. Like I think we're already like kind of at that point where they really need to figure out how to make these games faster and how to like make them for cheaper. Right, so first of all that. But the second thing is, like I do remember thinking when the PS5 kit was coming out, I do remember thinking like I don't know what all they can do that could make it like so much bigger than the last two consoles. Like, because I remember like the leap from PS1 to PS2 was a massive leap, and then the leap from PS2 to PS3, I remember at the time thinking, oh my god, these graphics are almost realistic. How can they get much better than that? Which is ironic that I thought that, because, you know, you look at the games on PS3 now, and they look more dated than the PS2 games. Like, the PS2 games, they had to look stylized for what they were working with. And the PS3 ones, you could tell they were trying to make it a little bit realistic, and they have really aged badly. Like, you look at you go back to some of those PS3 games, they have not, with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
Like aside from maybe like Metal Gear Solid 4 or whatever, and maybe Uncharted, those games do not look good anymore.
Have
right?
you seen
but
Wet
then I
lately?
remember thinking, have I seen which one? Sorry,
the game Wet. It's not
It's
not a particularly great mouthfeel game. Wet. I was watching gameplay of that recently because I was in an argument with people because they were telling me, no, that game isn't sexploitation. And I'm like, they called the game Wet, but that's a different argument.
Right.
I was watching gameplay of it. I'm like, oh my god, PlayStation 3 games look like shit now. It's so greasy. Everything's so greasy.
Like,
like PlayStation 3 360 was also an era with some of the absolute worst art styles in the industry, which doesn't help.
Yeah, Lightning Returns.
Lightning Returns looked fine. It ran like us because it was an open-ish World Crystal Tools game, but the actual designs were like they were out there and interesting to look at, which is more than most shooters of the era can say.
Yeah.
God.
I don't know if people are going to go back and care much about, what was that one? Deus Ex? No. The Baldur game, whose name I can never remember, that killed that studio. Crystal Dynamics, right? God. I'm not remembering a single part of the story I'm telling. I fucked it up, every single part of it. Every single detail.
No, I think I know what you mean, though. But, yeah,
Too Human, that's the game I'm thinking of. Too Human.
Too Human.
And I'm thinking of Silicon Knights. It did star Baldur, but everything else I got wrong.
Yeah.
I do remember thinking with the leap from PS4 to PS5, like when the run up to that was happening, I do remember thinking like, what can we really expect to see from this point other than just, we've made graphics better again? Like that would seem to me underwhelming, right? But to their credit, they did find ways to actually make it like better at the, not just the graphics part of it, actually make it better as a console. You know, the SSD and the whole no load times thing, that's been massive.
Right.
Been
incredible.
Yeah,
that is excellent tech.
And what they did to the controller to make the controllers like more immersive in the game. So I'm like, to their credit, they did find ways to innovate to be better at the actual playing games part of it. Right. So to their credit on that was good. But how many more of those have they got up their sleeve for the PS6 era? Like, how is the PS6 era going to feel drastically different to the PS5 era? That's what I want to see before I see a new console come out.
Yeah, like everything I said about it not helping aside, I don't mind if generations lasted longer. And that is largely a price thing. Like, we have reached a technological break point where Moore's Law is no longer really a truism, and we still haven't recovered from Nvidia completely fucking up its prices because they decided, oh, fuck gaming, we're going to try and court cryptocurrency miners. And because of that, the pricing for new hardware is just completely out of whack, and it's probably not going to get back into proper territory for quite a while.
Okay, all right, but you know what? I have the magic solution. It's 2 words, AI. I have no details more than this. I'm just gonna say the word AI over and over again. That'll fix everything. Just fill it with AI. That'll work, right?
Like God, just this week, the Guardian put out a video. Like, I posted this in the Final Fantasy 14 channel. Like, back from the dead, could AI end grief? Like, this is just the plot of the second half of Dawn Trail.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of cursed AI news reports, I was listening to NPR on my ride to work the other day, and they had a news report talking about how they were going to train AI on police camera footage to go and try to find violations. And I'm like,
Oh no!
Oh, great.
Oh no!
There's
No!
not-
No!
Oh,
No! No!
that's
There's not
literally a Futurama episode.
there's not a
There's
single
literally
part
a
of that
Futurama
story.
episode about that.
It's not a single part about that story that sounds like a good idea. It's not the having
Oh,
cops.
God.
It's not the having AI. Every single part of that sounds like a terrible idea. Jesus. Oh,
I remember that Futurama episode as well. It was not. It was very
Is this
dystopian.
this is one of the new
Very
seasons.
funny. What's the? Oh no! It's from one of the classic ones. It's
I-
like when they have this thing where it's like we can predict a crime in the future before it happens, and then Fry and Bender become like time cops.
Oh,
and
that's
then-
I think that's one of the Comedy Central seasons.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. That's playing off of Minority Report.
Yeah. That's right.
Well,
So
like
anyway,
it's like a lot of this AI stuff we have long since moved into the part where like you don't need a degree to tell you why this is terrible, but I do have a degree in computer science and I'm willing to confirm to you that it is a fucking terrible idea.
Yep.
Some color
Yeah.
mage. Some computer science mage.
Yeah,
That's what it stands for.
sure does.
Our expert in the field. Speaking of experts in the field, our reporter in the field was able to find a Games Radar post building off of the story that we were talking about. This came out 12 hours ago. There's someone asking the Astrobot director, where is this person's name? Studio head Nicholas Doucet said that they tried to get a cloud cameo, but never got approval from Square Enix. Quote, "It's difficult to comment on that. We really respect the choice of each publisher," which is basically, I ain't fucking touching that one. I'm not saying what happened, but probably Square Enix wanted too much money.
Yeah.
I mean,
which
if anyone really wants to talk about that, that's legal's job.
Yeah.
They shouldn't talk about it either.
I'll just say that
Yeah,
whoever at Square Enix thought that they shouldn't have their characters in this game and thought they needed money for it, you're a moron.
Indeed.
You should... No, don't pay Sony. Sony
Yeah,
should
big
pay
shame.
you,
Well,
but
Here's what it says.
at least let Ashley Riot in this thing. Like, have one random fucking game. Like, have, like, the Einhander guy show up. Like, the ship from Einhander. No Final Fantasy games. No explanation as to why, of all your portfolio of titles, it's just Einhander. But this is what you're going to do, Einhander. Or Xenogears guy. Why not Xenogears guy? Do we have any more news?
God, the Xenogears reference in 2024 would be so fucking funny.
Give us a
Yeah,
Xenogears
do you have
remaster.
any more news? I can't think of any.
No, I have one more. And then I'll ask
Oh,
some
go
color
on.
mage if there's been any Final Fantasy 14 stuff, because I don't track that very well. But
No,
Tetsuya... Yeah.
Oh, go ahead with your thing.
All right. So Tetsuya Nomura had an interview with Young Jump. This has been going around this last week. This was on like the 18th. I think this interview dropped. Multiple things about this. One is that he's starting to hint about his retirement. He's talking about how Final Fantasy 14... I mean, not Final Fantasy. God damn, can I not talk? Kingdom Hearts 4. He's making that with the intention of a more story complete. So he's already talking about possibly the end of Kingdom Hearts, which is a upsetting concept for me because I want that to keep going and continue to grow in dataist absurdity over and over. But, you know, eventually...
Yeah, upsetting, but also fair. Like, a ton of us thought that 3 was going to be the end of it, and
I never thought
then
that for
it
a
very
second.
much was not.
I never thought for a second that was going to be the conclusion. Also, he talks about how there's a story that he shared about how when he was a kid, he was playing a game and the main character of the game was ugly, and he was really annoyed by that. That's why all of his characters are beautiful.
Okay.
But it's also, you know, you think of Nomura as kind of like the second generation of Square Enix and kind of the, in some ways, almost like the new blood, quote unquote. But he's a man in his 50s now, and
Yeah, he's been drawing for the series since 5.
yeah, so he is in some ways looking at wrapping up his career. Really, it's you know, time passes and things happen. Unfortunately. We do not have an infinite time on this earth, and there will come an end for Kingdom Hearts. There may come an end for Final Fantasy. Who's to say?
come an end to everything
Yeah.
eventually.
This
Yeah, but
podcast
this
though
is-
will never end. We'll be talking for
Yeah,
all
but
time.
this is
Yep.
obviously why 7 Rebirth is propping up Hamaguchi, because a lot of the Final Fantasy VII original staff are in the middle of retiring. Some of them already effectively have. Like Uematsu's not doing big scale work anymore. Sakaguchi seems to be content mainly getting drunk in Hawaii while doing crafting in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Sakaguchi is like the John Carpenter of this series now. Is what he's become.
And now Nomura's signaling that he who knows when he'll leave, but he doesn't really have 2 decades of work left in his career at his age. He's in his 50s.
These are guys who have like 1, 2, 3 games tops left in them.
Yeah.
And with game development at the curve that it is, like eventually it's going to come to the point that games will take so long to make that your grandkids will be finishing what you started.
Yeah, and it's not like this is a completely new thing. Just like Nomura already has an understudy in the form of Roberto Ferrari.
Oh yeah, our new
Yeah,
our new
he's
horny
really good.
drawing master, Roberto Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart to to try and bring new blood up to speed that way, right? And Hamaguchi has been absolutely phenomenal with 7 Rebirth.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, he's been absolutely incredible. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, for me, it's hard to, within the past couple years, it's hard for me to look at the state of Final Fantasy and not be optimistic about it. For me, like, I do think there are problems there, but I think they understand them, and I think, like, I like what I see, basically.
And Kingdom Hearts 4 has been radio silent for about 2 years. It's one thing worth noting. This is like the most we've heard about this game since the original trailer. There's also a Kingdom Hearts Missing Link game that was supposed to come out this year for mobile phones. That did not. Yeah, we don't know what's going on.
It had its iOS beta, and then I guess that didn't go well because the Android beta got delayed and they were radio silent for ages. Then the Android beta happened, and then it went radio silent again, which I'm not surprised. It's not a particularly good game.
What if that game goes radio silent for like years, resurfaces on the Switch 2 as a real video game? Worth considering.
Yeah, it could happen.
One hopes. So that's kind of everything in the news. Ever Crisis continues to exist for some reason.
It's called Ever Crisis for a reason.
Forever Crisis,
Forever,
yeah. Forever Crisis, am I right? I think Brave Exvius might have finally shut down. Is that this month, or maybe that's next month?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. They said so. Yeah, I remember there was an announcement about Brave Exvius is closing, and I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did, to be honest. I'm very surprised it outlasted Dissidia.
Shutdown date for Brave Exvius Global is October 30. I guess the Japan version's still going, but Brave Exvius is run by Gumi, and Gumi are one of the studios that have been completely collapsing this year, so I wouldn't expect either that or War of the Visions in general to last very long.
Oh yeah, War of the Visions is a spinoff of that, yeah. So, for all you Brave Exviuses, happy Halloween, because this is it. This is fucking over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you asked earlier about 14 news, not much has actually happened this month. The reveal of patch 7.1 is actually happening something like 5 hours from now at the time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
There's been nothing big in game this month, I don't think.
Yeah. So anyway, we should talk about kind of a main topic. I like to do a main topic every month. So I'm thinking this month we should talk about Final Fantasy on PC. Now, Final Fantasy is not a series you think of as PC existing. It has always been a console game, going all the way back to its origins on the Famicom. But, you know, JRPGs, as much as we think of them as console games, they have their origins in PCs. Like, they are games born out of Ultima and Wizardry, which are PC-ass PC RPGs. And there's an entire kind of forgotten history, really, of like RPGs coming out on the PC Engine and PC 88001. Like, these are games I've never even heard of until very recently. And like Spy Daisuken. This is stuff you should really look up. Seduction of the Condominium Wives is another game that's being listed. There's a PC Gamer article that I've been looking at about all these like super early PC games, and effectively Japanese gaming as a whole after the Famicom sort of moved onto console, whereas other Eastern countries continued to work on PC in Korea and China. There's a forgotten Chinese RPG history as well. But Final Fantasy never officially made it to PC until Final Fantasy 7 and 8 on the PlayStation 1 when those games came out on CDs.
Right. In the very late 90s.
Yes.
In like 90s. Yeah, and there's so much interesting stuff related to like the PC version of Final Fantasy 7, which later, and that's before it got ported to Steam in 2012. That same version.
Yeah, and just because of that, the eras in those weren't exceptionally great ports. Like, I think some people who do use PC now forgot just how bad Windows used to be as a gaming platform.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I had a computer that ran Windows 95.
Well, all right.
That was a fucking hell device.
Okay, the Windows was a fantastic gaming platform. It was just a very different gaming platform. Like, even MS-DOS, I remember playing some fun stuff. Like, you know, I'm old enough to remember Stunts.
DOS was better for gaming than Windows, than early Windows.
Yeah. I remember like Stunts was a fun game back then. But like the kinds of games that were big in my era of PC gaming are like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Command and Conquer. These are PC.
Age of Empires.
Age of Empires.
That was it.
Some early FMV games like Rebel Assault, the Star Wars game. But these are like things that they would never ever be able to play on consoles. And similarly, getting a console game to play on PC could be just as frustrating because there's a Super Mario Brothers port for, I think, the PC Engine that is one of the worst games ever made.
Oh, yeah, isn't that like the version that has ratchet scrolling? That's just...
Yeah, it's got...
Why would you put that in a fucking Mario game?
Super Mario Brothers, but it's got screen scrolling, so like you have like 5 different screens for one level, yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's not good. But by the PlayStation 1 era, I mean, these games are coming out on CD already, and they are FMV games, and the technology's sort of growing similarly. FMVs on PC meant very different things than they did on PlayStation, let's say. God, if you can remember games like the Black Dahlia or Reaper, Phantasmagoria, wildly different stuff than your Resident Evils. Phantasmagoria 2, A Puzzle of the Flesh, is a game that I recommend you watch the cutscenes for. It's fascinating. But kind of a new era for Final Fantasy opens with the PlayStation 2 on PC, because then you have Final Fantasy 11 coming out, because that is a online game. And that requires... You know, MMOs are extremely a PC genre. Final Fantasy 11, I think... When did that originally come out on PC?
I believe it launched day and date with the PS2 version.
Which is crazy to think about.
No, it didn't. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. Wikipedia, the best Final Fantasy wiki, of course. It came out May 2002 on PlayStation 2, and came out November 2002. These are the Japanese releases. It actually came out on PC in North America before the PlayStation 2 North American release, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy XI is still going strong now.
That's only on PC.
Yes. Oh, I guess it is only still working on PC. Could you even get it to run on PS2 anymore?
No, the PS2 and Xbox 360 just cannot connect to the game.
That's disappointing. And of course, Final Fantasy XI would be followed up by Final Fantasy XIV, the game that has kept everything afloat these last decades, basically.
Yep.
But really, the major revolution that's happened over these last decades is that console games and PC games are practically every year more and more the same thing. The consoles are basically just less functional PCs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is really.
If you don't have Windows, then console is the only way to play anymore.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of that is really on Steam because they've done a lot to make PC not just PC, but effectively make Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and consoles basically be able to behave as the same plug and play system because like first of all they're the ones who pioneered compatibility between all the PC versions, but also they're the ones who have the most robust method of translating joystick commands into something more palatable to PC devices.
Yeah, and the Steam Deck has apparently been much bigger than I thought it was. Right, like, I mean, I was always impressed by that machine, but I've never picked one up because I've always gone on the assumption of like I don't know what I'd play on it, but apparently it's massive. Like, I mean that console continues to like intrigue and impress me, even as someone who doesn't really PC game other than Civilization, which I can get on my Mac, so I do play that.
But what I'm trying to say is like now that everything is sort of all the same thing in so many ways, everything releases on everything now. Practically everything of the series has come out on PC. Just looking at our Microsoft Windows page, and I think with the Pixel remaster, it should be the entirety of Final Fantasy 1 through 6. After Years is out on Steam.
The only game that we consider main series that is not currently available on Windows is Rebirth.
Yes.
Yep.
16 now, of course. 14. Dissidia NT is playable on PC, at least was in 2019. World of Final Fantasy is on here. Yeah.
Yeah. NT would still be playable because I'm pretty sure that was a peer-to-peer multiplayer.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
And clearly they're selling these games on PC, or else they wouldn't keep releasing them on PC.
I'm going off of our wiki, but I'm not sure beyond that. There are a few odd ones looking at our wiki here. One thing called Final Fantasy Unlimited on PC Adventure Labyrinth. I have no idea what this thing is. It came out in May 16th, 2003. The game features card-based gameplay, and the story scenes feature voice acting and accompanying stills from the show to convey the story. What the hell is this? I have no idea what this is. This is just like a card game made out of stills from the anime. This is fascinatingly bizarre. I've never heard of this in my life. It's yeah, so, that's kind of all that. One other big thing about PC that's worth pointing out is that emulation has been a thing for decades now. And we deeply respect the original Final Fantasy V translation, the Butts translation that came out in, I think, like 95, 96?
Yeah, one of the, the first big fan translation project in games.
Yeah,
that's the one where they started doing things like digging into the actual code to make the thing compatible with English fonts.
Yep, and that had to be played on PC because that was the only way you could run an emulator back then. What else were we going to run it on? Literally nothing. There was nothing else you could have run it on except for a PC back then. So PC will be here forever, and people will continue to comment loudly that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did not sell well because it did not come out on Steam.
And it probably should come out on Steam, but that's probably not the only problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I did see that take a lot, and I was kind of like surprised by it a little bit, like, because I was like, I don't know that they moved the needle that much, but that was because I guess I've underestimated how big of an audience Steam has. I mean, it's not that they're not overestimating the audience, don't get me wrong, but I have been severely underestimating that audience just because I'm not really in that space or that bubble. But, like, there are some passionate people in that space, like, really passionate gamers, the type who, let's say, would be more likely to spend however much it is on a brand new game that comes out. So I do think there's something to the fact that you would boost the sales. I'm just not sure you'd, like, for example, double the sales or whatever like they're hoping or expecting.
I mean, we absolutely know that it's not double because we can look at our remakes numbers. Because 3.5 at initial release, 3.5 million at initial release, 7 million sometime later after all the versions came out. So like less than 3.5 million of those would have been combined PS5, Epic Games Stores, and Steam sales.
But that's not insignificant. Let's say it's 2 million.
Oh, right? I know it's not insignificant. I'm just saying they are not the majority.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, but let's say it's like 2 million of those are Steam, then that might just about get it over the line for the numbers that they're hoping for, where they would say it did meet their expectations. Like, I do think there is something to the point about that many people missed out on 7 Rebirth because they do not have a PS5. I do think there is something to that. But I equally think that some people do somewhat overestimate the extent to which it has an impact on sales, if that makes sense. Like, I think, I don't know, it's just hard for me because I'm not in that space and I'm not in the PC gaming space, but from the outside looking in, I used to dismiss it as, oh, maybe it's like 10-15% of sales. But I think it's quite a bit more than that. Like, and if it's
it's probably more than a third. It's
right,
somewhere between a third and a half, which is a significant amount. And it's also and the thing is, the longer you wait, the more you risk bleeding sales just due to lack of interest. Which is something that Square are completely screwing up on. They should have had the 16 and 7 Rebirth PC versions out like the day after the exclusivity agreement expired. It took much longer. Seeing as it happened last month, it took like something like 2 months more than the agreement said for 16. And I believe Rebirth's exclusivity agreement was only 6 months, and they haven't even hinted at the possibility of a PC version. Which, come on, guys.
Yeah, well, I will say that, like, an RPG seems like something that the PC crowd would eat up because, like, PC gamers seem to really, like RPGs really hit it big on PC.
Well, PC RPGs,
they always have.
Yeah, on console are completely different. It's like a whole. That's where the Western RPG culture was on PC.
That's definitely where the majority of Baldur's Gate 3 sales was. So,
right.
Yeah, but like what I mean is like Western RPGs basically almost never came out on PC on like consoles. And they mostly proliferated on PC for most of their history. Like the original Baldur's Gates, those are PC games. Fallout are originally PC games. What's it called? Elder Scrolls originally starts as PC. All that stuff, like maybe would have console releases later. And it is only within the last few generations that one would even consider those games being able to be released within the same year, let alone day and date, as a console and PC.
Yeah, there is a reason why console RPG was always a much more accurate descriptor than JRPG.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, so, well, what I guess what I'm saying is like, if you did release them both at the same time, you could more aggressively push that audience. Whereas, like, you know, there is a fear of if you release it on PS5 and then you release it on PC a year later or however much later it is, then like people will say, "Oh, I'm not paying full price for an old game," as they would see it, or they'd say like, "Or this, that, or the other," right? So, yeah, I mean, I do think there is something to the fact that there is an audience there that they can pick up on and they can market toward. That I understand why they're underestimating it because I underestimate that. Like, I sometimes forget how big of an audience that is. And I will say, like, I wonder to what extent the gaming audience is changing, right? As opposed to where, like, more of the, I guess, quote unquote, hardcore gamers are more likely to be PC gamers now, like, or more so than it used to be the case. Because, like, for me, I've only ever really gamed on console. I've never really enjoyed gaming on PC a whole lot, right? But a lot of people I know who enjoyed the same games I did will say to me things like, "Well, I don't need a PS5, so I don't have one yet." Or they'll say things like, like, "Oh, everything I want to play just comes out on PC now," right? And then the people I know who most of the people I know who got PS5s, a lot of them, like, they'll buy a PS5 when it came out just to play FIFA on it, or just to play Call of Duty on it, or whichever it is, right? They're not actively going out and playing the kinds of games that I play. So I wonder to an extent, like, if the audience is like not shifting away from console, but like if a more significant base of it exists on PC now because of what you're saying about how, to an extent, like, PC can play games that previously you could only really play on console, and like that, and that audience is like, a much larger. It's a much larger audience than used to be the case, if that makes sense. Like, but yeah, I know I'm kind of fence sitting still on this take a little bit, but I do think there is something to it that it would massively help out the series if it started releasing on both at once. But I also do think that, let's be careful not to like overestimate and say like, oh, if we release 7 Rebirth on PC, it'll be fine. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think there are other things you need to do, such as, basically keep pumping out Rebirths, keep pumping out more GOTY games, and you'll eventually, that will help out on a lot.
Like, yeah, sure, you gotta keep putting out games and keep putting out good games. So that's like self-evident. So good things sell because they're good, and the previous products were good. Like, I don't know what to say to that aside from, yeah,
I don't know. Which is we could kind of like just wrap up. I don't know.
Yeah.
We kind of petered out. I mean, I don't know how many more PC history we got here. If I had done better studying, I think this would be an interesting discussion about all the various JRPGs that had came out in the 80s and early 90s on Japan's PC gaming area. But this is a sphere that I know very, very little about myself.
Like the microcomputer era is certainly fascinating, and like a lot of people think of 1983, but that actually only happened in North America. The that sort of thing was going on for ages in Europe and Asia, and like, I guess those two had very different styles of games that were coming out on those kinds of devices. But yeah, there's a lot going on there.
I mean, it's worth noting that, like, we think of like these binaries existing, but like Secret of Evermore was made by Western developers and is an extremely RPG-esque game on the Super Nintendo. There's a rip-off of Final Fantasy X. That's a Lord of the Rings game on PlayStation 2.
Oh, yeah. God, I forgot.
Hilarious game. Just straight up did Final Fantasy X, but recolored it with Lord of the Rings peoples. But
and Final Fantasy X's combat system is good, so yeah.
It is. It's a good combat system. Just go use it for other things. I'd play a Star Wars game with Final Fantasy X combat. I want to play that Star Wars game that came out that Ubisoft is currently melting down around because people haven't bought it, but I'm waiting for Christmas, honestly, on that one. I can't help them there.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the kind of game that you get at full price on its release. Like that was the vibe I got from that game.
And most people don't get Ubisoft games at full price because like they know that like within a month or so, even if the game's sold like trillions of copies, they've already discounted it to half price.
Yeah,
right.
I don't mind that. I think it looks like a really great game. I didn't have the time when it released. There was a lot of stuff coming out.
It's a good game.
What am I going to play? Am I going to play Astrobot or Star Wars Outlaws? I can only play one.
Yeah.
I got a job. I'm sorry.
It's got. I mean, Astrobot. I feel like Astrobot basically clears anything, and 7 Rebirth is so far the only thing close. Like I don't know, like that Zelda game does seem to be getting decent reviews.
I like it. I've played it 2 dungeons now.
Oh yeah, is it like on the level of say a Breath of the Wild or Trials of the Kingdom?
I think we're out of Final Fantasy things to talk about. We might as well wrap this thing up. I think it's time for the show to end. We're now just talking about games.
I guess the summary is that as the PC has changed in terms of what it can do, Final Fantasy has a future on PC. I guess that's where we can say it is like, I think Final Fantasy has a future on PC, and there's a potential. There's a market out there, ready that they could chase, and I think it's worth chasing.
Yeah. So the personal computer, this invention that has revolutionized the world, will continue to exist.
Yeah, and they probably will, because, like, as recent events have made clear, unless Sony starts shoveling out tons and tons more money, they're just sick of exclusivity agreements.
Yeah. My big number one complaint, bring everything to Mac. I don't like Windows. Bring it all to Mac.
No, you have that completely backwards. Mac sucks.
Bring it to Mac. Bring it to Mac.
Have you heard of this thing called a right click?
Yeah, I have. It's a
magnificent. Oh, they have that on Mac now?
Yeah.
Have you heard of this thing that like it's a mouse, but it can be recharged and used at the same time?
Yeah, it's called the Magic Trackpad 2. It's great.
Okay. I once took a programming class and they set it in Mac computers at the lab, so I had to quit that class because I literally could not make the computers frickin' work. It sucked. It was a bad time. All right, we need to end this show. I'm BlueHighwind. Yep. I'm your host. This show is edited by Eric Fuchs, who is also me. The podcast music is La Montaña de los Jovenes Caballeros by XPRTNovice off the OC Ruin Balance and Ruin OC Ruin Balance and Ruin thing. All that stuff. It's finalfantasy.fandom.com. That's the website. At least as long as fandom continues to exist. Who knows how long that's going to be. We need...
Look, I'm sure we'll have our contingency plan to go somewhere, I guess, if something goes wrong.
You need to have a very Buddhist view of things online, and including your video game franchises.
Like, maybe some episode in 2025 we'll end with reminding Blue that it's now like finalfantasy.mirrorhaze.com or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, but Mirrorhaze ain't doing amazing at the minute.
Finalfantasy.neocities.com will be our future.
I think more likely what would happen is it would get bought out by someone.
I don't think we can afford to put our site on NeoCities. Like, the general paid version is like 50 gigabyte limit. I'm pretty sure we're bigger than that.
I don't even know if
Yeah.
NeoCities still exists. I haven't seen a NeoCities website in like 10 years. All right, we're going to end this thing now. I'm going to bed. Goodbye. So anyway, the Broncos, the Cloud Strife of NFL teams, I'm going to see them tomorrow. And Techno's team, the Cowboys, the Balthier of NFL teams, sorry, they're a mess right now. They're getting.
Would you call them the Balthier?
I would call them. I just did an episode last month.
Yeah, this was the topic of his solo show last month.
You don't listen, do you?
Okay.
Yeah, they are the Balthier. And actually, I think I'm 100% correct. Because they call themselves the main character, and they're just not.
I did listen to part of it, but I just do not understand enough about football to understand it. So, yeah.
You know what? Half my predictions were wrong anyway, because the Vikings are really good, and the Rams look like they're all dead, and so do the 49ers, so...
Yeah, all you need to know about the Cowboys is that they're never going to be good until Jerry Jones is no longer in charge of the team.
And that's when he dies.
Well, yeah. I mean, either that or, like, you know, or he gives it to his children or whatever. But just, like basically, the Dallas Cowboys are the Man United of the NFL, right? Their owners are trash. And as long as those owners are in charge, they will always be a team that used to be dominant and never will be again.
But still acts like they're dominant.
And still, yeah, exactly. They're Man United of the NFL.
They're in many ways the British Empire of the NFL.
Yeah, that too. No, so like the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, right, Dak Prescott, he was asked after one of the more recent embarrassing losses, and then his response was, "Jump off the bandwagon if you like." I'm like, what bandwagon? Who is bandwagoning the Cowboys?
Literally everybody. I mean, their entire team is a bandwagon from like 40 years ago now.
From 40 years ago.
All right.
It's a joke.